What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you Chiron's first place Yubel profile. That's right, Chiron took Yubel to locals, did incredibly well, ended up facing Ray Raptors, Voiceless Voice, Fire King, and of course it branded Chimera Illusion, which was insane. But the deck was able to go undefeated the entire day, did incredibly well, and it had some very interesting power plays in it and a couple of different interesting ratios. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Now, he's also given me his side deck as well, so I'll show you that and kind of try to explain what I can see. He hasn't really broken down anything of his ratios with this deck, but just off the face of it, I can kind of explain what I feel or what it looks like, and then he can adapt and comment in the comments below. So we start off with, of course, the Yubel package. So one Yubel, one Terra Incarnate, and one Ultimate Nightmare. Pretty straightforward and simple on that. And then, of course, triple Spirit of Yubel, alongside the Geist Grinder Golem, and triple Samsara D Lotus. All relatively straightforward for the Yubel lineup. I don't think this really changes until we get the Legacy of Destruction support, and that just gives you more consistent ways to get into Samsara D Lotus. Then, of course, double Nightmare Pain. I feel that this is more of a common occurrence now, playing two of this rather than three, just because you'd rather get to your Spirit. You've got no issue setting this off of the back of the Spirit, and it can be a little bit bricky if you have multiples, but, you know, I think it kind of makes sense. And then triple Eternal Favourite. Again, pretty straightforward and simple on this one. A lot of people forget that his first effect lets you special summon a Yubel monster that is banished or in the graveyard, which is really nice, especially when, and I'm going to show you this now because this is one of the big win cons of the deck, is triple D-Shifter. Being able to D-Shifter your opponent and still combo with all of your Yubel stuff is absolutely insane. Samsara can still tribute, Yubel Spirit can still summon, it can still do everything it needs to, and you can play under Shifter. So when you're being able to play a deck that can utilize Super Poly and D-Shifter, both amazing outs to the current meta in the form of Voiceless Voice, and of course Yubel as well, not to mention the rogue matchups, it can be incredibly powerful. So D-Shifter on its own will get you a couple of good game wins, while also giving you a decent amount of advantage, there we go, stumble over my words, in order to kind of build your board even further. He also main deck triple Fenrir, pretty understandable to be fair. This is one of the best cards for going first, going second. It's a nice aggressor. It can help you deal with floodgates as well, which can be very important. He was on the Sacred Beast engine of playing 2 Beckoning and 2 Opening, alongside the Unchained engine of the Shayama, Shavara, and of course the Abominable Chamber. All pretty straightforward on that one. I feel the ability of these just has crazy synergy with Yubel cards in its most competitive form. Like this, in my opinion, is the most competitive version of the deck when you're able to use stuff like the Unchained Engine, Shifter, the normal Yubel cards, followed up with stuff like Super Polys, and some very interesting board breakers that he chose to go with. So speaking of board breakers, he played 2 Super Poly. This is interesting. I honestly thought that this deck would be utilising Super Poly at its max, just because it has the best Super Poly target in the entire game. Like, there's no way your opponent can play around it, bar stopping you get into a Yubel monster. That being said, you do only have 3 Spirit, and then of course the Yubel chain of Yubel, Terra, and Ultimate Nightmare. So I can understand where you might not want to rely on this as heavily, but I still feel 3 would make sense. It might be, and knowing Chiron, it's probably because he's only got the 2 ultis, and he would probably only want to play 3. Anyway, he decided to go with 2 Triple Tactics Thrust, interesting, and this also surprised me, triple Raigeki. I don't know, and he'll need to comment down below on this one, I don't know why he chose to main deck Raigeki over everything else, because I feel Lightning Storm, maybe even Harpy's Duster would be a little bit more effective, but maybe there was a reason for this. I suppose maybe because people, when he was testing, were putting everything in defense and playing around Lightning Storm, and Raigeki is just a more and more outright board destructor. But I do feel that destroying all of your opponent's monsters is risky, just because then you can't get into your Yubels. So a very interesting tech choice on this one. There was also one thing that I massively learned from this one, is it doesn't matter if your opponent has towers. If you're playing Yubel, you don't care. Like, if they have towers, it's like, alright, whatever. As long as you can attack it with your Yubel or make them attack you, they will take the damage. Like, it doesn't matter how strong their monster is, they're still going to take it. So that was very interesting. 2 Pot of Prosperity, 1 Pure Rizzi map, and then 2 Talents. Again, pretty standard. I don't think much more really needs to be said about those. Decent board breakers, decent ability going first to rip out any additional hand traps. You've got the ability to bait out hand traps when you're trying to work up through the Sacred Beast engine, all the way into your Yubel plays and thereon. Then, of course, we do play 2 Yubel, or he does play 2 Yubel, the Loving Defender. Not much more really needs to be said about that. The other Super Body targets, of course, Starving Venom. because you can utilize it for your own board as well as your opponent's board. Dragon Knight, Draco-esque. So this is for the voiceless voice matchup because they end on a warrior and a dragon synchro sometimes. Because there were times where the matchups were a little bit odd. On top of that as well, you also got the synchro matchups where they were going to be going with a dragon, as long as it has a dragon synchro, and then of course you've got the warrior monsters, so Red Dragon Archfiend for our local environment and everything else. Garura, I'm surprised he decided to go with this over Mud Dragon. That might have been like a last minute change where he had Mud Dragon in, but he saw the local attendance and was like, okay, well this would probably be a little bit more effective for me. XYZs, we've got the Triple D High King Caesar and then the Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. I know that he also did want the Spider, the one that burns your opponent or gains attack difference of life points, but he hasn't got it as of yet. It's quite expensive. I can't remember exactly what one it is. I think it's like 35, but I can't remember off the top of my head, but you can understand how good that is. The Unchained Engine, pretty much Yama into Soul, and an interesting one is going into Anguish. So I suppose maybe this took the spot of the Spider, but there are times when you can utilize this and able to link with one of your opponent's monsters. But I'm not sure. I suppose you just do that, and then during his turn, you can use Anguish with one of your opponent's monsters and go into SP if they've been able to stop Rage. And then Muckrocker, Underworld, and then Dart the Dark Charmer. So all relatively straightforward on that one. I can understand why the deck does incredibly well because it can out towers with this, it can out massive boards with Super Poly or just Yubel plays, and do really, really well. For the side deck, he had the range of hand traps, so Drolls, Ashes, Bells, and Nibs, all at 2, which is interesting. And then the One Duster, and then Floodgates of Anti-Spell and Summon Limit. So it was one of the ones where it's like, okay, cool, go first. There is no way they're playing around it. I think Yubel is a very interesting deck in a sense that you kind of want to leave your opponent with monsters on the board. You want them to have the strongest monsters possible. And I suppose that's where Nibiru comes into play because you don't care how strong that Nibiru token is. If you can get your Yubel monster on the board and you're going to make them take all the damage, you go, okay, cool, put it in attack, try and attack me, make a Yubel, make you attack the Yubel, and then crash in game. So, yeah, I can see where it works so well. I do enjoy the Yubel strategy, and like I said, I feel that when you're playing the Unchained Engineer, it's probably the strongest root and version of this deck, and I feel it's crazy not to consider playing D-Shifter. It's a bit of a weird one that you're playing Unchained and Shifter, but then you can't really rely on a card that needs you to have no cards in the graveyard. It's like if you open up this and the Unchained, you then have a decision to make, but if you only open up this or you only open up the Unchained, at least you know you've got great routes of play. Especially when this card is near enough a game winner on its own against most of the main decks. And when you look at the matchups that you faced in the form of Voiceless Voice, Ray Raptors, Fire Kings, and Branded Chimera, if you open up Shifter, you're going to take that over the Unchained cards 99% of the time because all those matchups can't play under Shifter. And it's one of the ones that unless he faces a matchup where they can play under Shifter really well, this will win them the game. So very powerful choice. Like I said, with the right environment, it's definitely a no-brainer for a main deck of that one. And Yubel is still incredibly powerful. I can't wait till the Legacy of Destruction support because the deck's just going to get even better. And I feel that we're going to end up seeing Yubel become more and more popular and more prominent. It just increases its consistency. And with Yubel being like an anime-based deck, I would not be surprised if we get even more future support. And the best thing about it is it can utilize any type of Fiend support we get that have 0/0 or anything else along those lines. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Congratulations to Kyron on that one, getting first place with Yubel. Shout out to the DPE sleeves as well that he's been rocking on his extra deck. As you can tell, he is a hero player as well. So hero to Yubel is a no-brainer kind of change up, basically. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Do like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.